Hi guys, Tony here. So for tonight for supper, we are going to have cabbage soup. You know, I know there's probably a lot of people cringing at the idea of that, just the thought of it, the number of people who don't like cabbage, Brussels sprouts, those kind of things. Well, they don't fit into our family. Our older children, you can see the shadow from my hand. Our older children especially really like those things, and I haven't told them yet that that's what we're having, so I expect some excitement. Now the kitchen is still completely torn up. Things are a little bit cleaner than last time, but I think this video is going to be another picture recipe tutorial. I'm sorry for those of you who gave me a thumbs down on the last one, whether that was because you didn't like the recipe or the fact that it was pictures. Don't know what to tell you. Now, with this soup, normally I make it in our large soup pot on the stove top, but we don't have a working stove right now. So I'm going to try to make it in the Instant Pot because the magnetic copper cooker, I'm not even sure fully what to call it, but the magnetic cooker that is on loan to us right now only works with certain pots and pans, and it does not work with my enamel soup pot. So I can't use it. My large Instant Pot is larger than our largest soup pot that I would have, that's smaller than my stock pot. So that's what I'm using. So here we go. I will go ahead and post the ingredient list down in the description. Like last time, I will write general directions. Keep in mind, sorry about that. Keep in mind that I don't follow crazy recipes. I make half of this up myself. I'm not big on exact measurements usually. I do follow them sometimes, but if I do it myself, there's no exact. It's all guessing and based on personal taste and preference. So here we go. So I think I'm gonna make cabbage soup for supper.
There you go.
Not a full reaction, but I got something. You want cabbage?
That says 3 because there's a T, an H, a R, E, E. That spells 3. So you see the arrows up here, so make a T, start at the top, go down, then cross it. So you go down and then cross it. What?
So the first thing I do is add a splash of olive oil. Yeah, that looks good. Then we're going to hit the saute button. And as soon as that gets hot enough, I'm going to add our diced onions. Get those cooking down a little bit before I start browning the hamburger. I added the onions. They are cooking now. If you can tell, I just added them, so they're still spick and white. So I'll keep stirring these around in the oil until they cook down a little bit. And then we'll have the hamburger. When I cut a head of cabbage, I cut it in half, then I quarter it, and then I actually come in at an angle, as you can tell. So basically it's cut into 8ths because this will give the perfect bite-sized pieces. And as I finish chopping, this is the general size of the cabbage pieces, and then from there it cooks down even more in the soup.
Why are you circling 3?
Alright, so here is my entire head of cabbage chopped up. This is an 8-cup mixing bowl from Pampered Chef, so that gives you an idea about how much cabbage it takes, or how much we put in there. One thing I didn't mention before when I was chopping it is most of this, you know, is broken up leaves and stuff. Any core pieces, take out. So that core gets pretty tough. That core gets tough. I also take off the outer leaves. They just tend to be a little bit dirtier, more exposure. So I take those off so that everything in there is fresh and ready to be cooked. All right, so the onions have cooked down a bit. You see some browned bits in there. Getting a little more translucent. So we are ready to add our ground hamburger on top. I do tend to keep everything frozen. I'm not very good at remembering to pull things out to let it thaw. So it is partially thawed in the sink. Like I said, I don't tend to thaw meat first, so that's kind of a frozen hamburger patty sticking in there. I can, you're upset. I can put one of my regular pan lids, if it's perfectly on here, to help trap a little bit of heat to help brown that hamburger faster. So that's what I'm going to do. I'll keep scraping it and browning it, and see you in just a sec. This is what I do while I'm waiting for the hamburger to brown. I enjoy some tea. It's pretty good. It's pomegranate raspberry green tea, I believe, with some honey. So always a nice little treat while I wait for that. All right, so my hamburger is browned. I'm trying to stay back just a little bit so I don't fog up my lens, because if I lean over, well, then that's what happens. Anyhow, as you can tell, there's quite a bit of grease in there, so we're gonna drain that off before we move on to the next step. Really quick though, before I drain it, as you can tell, I've put the lid back on so that I can use that to make sure that I don't lose any meat. But I have to give a shout out to Instant Pot for their little lobster gloves, because these things make lifting the pot and draining it so much easier than trying to use just a traditional pot holder, I think. So, okay, really quick PSA about draining the grease on your hamburger. It is a personal preference of ours. I've met other families, including my own parents, who do not drain the grease off. If you choose not to, that's your choice. We don't like the grease it leaves behind, especially if there's a lot of it, and like when you stick it in the fridge afterwards, go to reheat it. I don't know, it's just gross. We don't like it. The extra grease does not agree with anybody's stomachs either. So we drain it off. Now with that, here's a PSA on draining the grease from your hamburger. Do not pour it down your drain, and do not pour it straight into the garbage. Both of those are really bad ideas. And if you don't know why, this is for you. And this is not to make fun of anybody. This is because when we first started out, I had no clue. So I may have tried each of these and learned the hard way. In the garbage, it's obvious. It is hot grease. You're pouring into a plastic bag. It will melt through. You will have a holy mess. Don't do it. The sink, it may wash down the sink. We used to think if we turned on hot water, we could rinse it down, no problem. Don't do it. It's bad for the pipes. Ask a plumber what they think about dumping grease down the drains. No. So what we do instead is we dump it into what we call a grease cup. Once it cools, we scrape that into the garbage. It's that easy. That one extra step is so worth it. So just to show you what I mean, this is our grease cup. I just poured the grease into it. Here is my hamburger and onions that is now resting. The Instant Pot is turned off. So once you're done sauteing, make sure that you hit the cancel button to turn that off. Now I'm going to start adding everything else. Starting with 3 cans of tomato sauce. All right, I have added my 3 cans of tomato sauce. One thing I should have done before the tomato sauce, but I didn't, it is still okay, is I'm going to add stock. Now you can use beef stock, chicken stock, vegetable stock, I don't really care, whatever your taste is. Or you can just add water. I've usually done water, about a can to a can and a half of water. But I'm going to add about half a box of stock, because the Instant Pot is super picky about there being enough moisture in there. If there's not, it will not come to pressure. And the food's in there, if there's not enough, will scorch to the bottom, and then it still won't come to pressure. Either way, your food doesn't properly cook then. So now that I've added the chicken stock, I'm going to go ahead and add my salt, pepper, chili powder before I throw in the cabbage. Okay, for anybody who missed when I said I don't measure, I went ahead and I ground the pepper only because it requires 2 hands to run my little pepper mill here. So I had to put you down for a second. Anyhow, we like pepper in our cabbage soup. It just really brings out the flavor in my opinion. So then, now we're going to add some salt. We like the Celtic sea salt in our house. I add just enough to, I don't know, be able to see it. Yeah, okay, that looks pretty good. Now, what we're going to add, let's see if I can open it one-handed here. Joke was on me. I could not open it one-handed. So now I'm going to add some chili powder. Now we don't want this too hot. This is just for a little bit of flavor. So, a smidge more. A smidge more. Okay, that looks good. And just in case you missed it, again, I was not joking when I said I'm not very good at measuring. I add till it looks good, or till it smells right. The combination of the scents coming up is actually what I go by more than anything, because if the smell is too overwhelming, then I know I've probably added too much. If I'm not catching any whiffs of it, I know I haven't added enough. And if I'm catching one thing over all the others, then I know it's not balanced properly. That is how I do my spices. So now let's add the cabbage and then we'll get this thing cooking. All right, so there's our mixture. Here's the cabbage. Let's see if I can do this one-handed without losing too much. Okay, looks like we got it. Now this is all down in here, and you'll notice there's a max line. I have managed to stay under that max line. Everything's in. So now we are going to put the lid on. Always check your valve to make sure that it's set to seal. Then we're going to come down here to the front, and let's see. I could do soup, which is 30 minutes, but I don't think I need to do that. I'm going to go ahead and do manual for 20 minutes on high pressure. I already had that in there from the last time I cooked something. So now we see it turns itself on after about 3 seconds. I think about 3 seconds. And now we wait. Once it comes to pressure, the pin will pop up. If the pin does not pop up and this starts counting down, it means it did not come to pressure. You've scorched something. So you're probably gonna have to start all over. So there that is. I'll show you the results as soon as it's done. All right, soup is done. I just finished doing a quick release on the Instant Pot after about 10 minutes of natural release. Not because it needed it, but because I didn't bother to get up when the beeper went off. So that's the way my cooking tends to go. Anyhow, let's open the lid and see how it looks. All right, at first glance, it looks like tomato sauce and cabbage, but all right, now that I finished stirring it up, it looks like we've got some really good cabbage soup. One alternative you can do is to add rice to this before you cook it. Add enough liquid to fully cook it. Do not put that in the bottom. Rice tends to scorch. So I would put it just somewhere around the tomato sauce hamburger layer. Make sure that there's liquid underneath and that it's fully covered on top in order to cook properly. But here's this. Now I'm going to dish everybody up. All right, I've got 6 of the kids dished up. Baby got hungry while I was cooking it. So I will make him just a small bowl to have something since everybody else is, but he has already eaten. So, hey guys, come dish up. So I hope you guys enjoy my Instant Pot cabbage soup recipe. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. I will do my best to answer them. And I'll see you next time. Have a blessed day. So it was worth the wait? Mm-hmm. How's it taste in the Instant Pot compared to when I normally do it on the stove?
Really good. I'm going to take a bite here.
Well, why not?
Because I've been busy crushing crackers in it.